My name is Elizabeth Ratkin. I am an internist and palliative care specialist. I've been in practice since 1988. I started in primary care, and I've been in the same practice ever since at
Wow.
the University of Cincinnati. And I became really interested in end-of-life care and started to really study that on my own, and started in about 2002 and grew myself into a palliative care specialist over the few years after that. And I've done various different roles in palliative care. So I maintained my practice throughout the entire time. I've been in the same practice with almost all the same partners
Wow.
for 36 years. And I've been at the University of Cincinnati for the majority of my career. I did almost all my training there. So it's very much a home space for me,
Yeah.
and it's been a pretty quick 36 years, but it's been wonderful, but it has had its ups and downs, as we all know in medicine. Over that period of time, a lot of things have changed.
Definitely. Appreciate that background and kind of transitioning to coaching. You know, what were the challenges you were going through that made you sort of start to consider coaching? What did life look like internally for you, externally? What was that before picture for you?
I I think it was about maybe 8 years ago. I don't know, Dottie, if you remember exactly how long ago it was, but it was probably 8 or 9 years ago. And I was really overworked. I was kind of overworking myself. I had been doing my primary care practice, which was a relatively full-time job. I had been doing palliative care and trying to build that program. I was pretty much the only person doing primary care for a long time at UC. And I
Hmm.
was sort of doing it almost kind of like a cottage industry, sort of like my own thing, because I really didn't have a lot of structure. And I was working with some of the other people in my organization over time to try and build a palliative care program, and feeling kind of like I wasn't really having my finger on the pulse very well. I wasn't really very good at program building or organizing, and that was very stressful for me.
Mm.
And I had been working with a group, and I had been I was considered the medical director of the palliative care department. The division was really more just a program at that point. And and I there was another woman who was hired to be working with me, and I was working in the department, the division of oncology. And little did I know that they basically had made this other woman the medical director and failed to tell me. And that was the kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will, because I had been very stressed during that time anyway. I had been really working with these two jobs and feeling very much like I hadn't really accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to see myself sort of as some of these pioneers of palliative care that I really admired, that I had learned from, that built these programs and were doing research and were doing all these things. And I wasn't really doing any of that. I was doing clinical palliative care, but I wasn't really doing a lot of other program building. And I started to feel really also very ostracized and
Mm.
um, marginalized, and very, feeling very much like I wasn't accomplishing anything. And this
Yep.
had really started to take a toll on me, on my work, on my family.
Yep.
My children at the time were, um, I guess, in their mid-teens and 20s. I can't remember exactly, but I have two sons. One is 26 now. One is 30. Will be 30 next week. And at the time, they were probably in college and high school. Um, and my son, who's older in college, has had a lot of challenges in his educational life and a lot of other challenges in behavior and such. And that was extremely stressful. My younger son was very uh, independent and fine, but it was still a lot of stress. I also, my husband was an obstetrician gynecologist. So there was a lot of things going on at that time. So the personal and the professional was just a kind of a peak time, and I didn't really know how I was going to manage, and I felt very very overwhelmed and just out of control. I just didn't know what to do, where to turn. I was feeling very
Mm,
um, kind of despondent. I really didn't want to seek mental health help because I didn't feel like it was all that. I didn't feel like mental health was the whole problem.
right.
But I did feel a lot of those burnout symptoms, like a lot of depersonal, or just feeling, not just a little bit of that depersonalization, and also, not having a lot of empathy. And when you're a primary care and palliative care, empathy is really important. And having lost
Right.
some of that empathy and feeling very put upon, and very much like manipulated, and etc. It was really, really a hard place to be. So
Yeah.
that's how I kind of was. And I didn't really know what to do. I was really kind of lost, and I was frustrated because I knew that burnout was a huge problem. My husband had been the president of the medical staff where he was working in a different hospital, and they were working on a lot on physician wellness and burnout. But seemingly none of this was helping me. Nothing was available. I felt really like I had no place to turn. I felt like I was really out
Got it.
there in the wind, and I'm in this large organization. I have 11 partners, and nobody wanted to really talk about anything. I felt really like I didn't talk to anybody. I felt like I didn't know where to turn. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I was really lost and felt like I didn't want to quit,
Yes.
but I didn't. I felt like
Yes.
I wasn't really doing my best job. I wasn't really paying close enough attention to things, and it was really very distressing, very distressing.
Yeah. And you used words that a lot of physicians share with us, kind of frustrated, overwhelmed, not sure where to turn next. And for you, that next turning point was coaching. And so,
Mm-hmm.
how did you find out about, my mom and MD can help? What were your thoughts going into the process? And what were some maybe doubts and fears that you had going into it? What made you say yes, anyways?
Um, well, your mom used to go to the palliative care meetings, and she would do private coaching, like she would do brief coaching sessions.
Yep.
And she was, there was an ad or something in the program, and I saw that, and I didn't sign up, or guess I didn't know about it in time, or didn't sign up for the pre coaching session, like the mini coaching session that she had. So I didn't do that. And I took the program home, and it was one of those things where, am I going to call? Am I not going to call? I was feeling pretty anxious
Yeah.
about it, right? I was very anxious. And, I finally made the leap and called. And it was, your mom was incredibly welcoming and non-judgmental. And that was so important. And we really had so many things in common that really helped me.
Palliative
It
care.
wasn't the only thing, obviously. Your mom coaches all kinds of doctors with all kinds of specialties, and she's very insightful, and she knows a lot about the different challenges that different specialists really have to face. And at the bottom line is that we all have similar challenges. It's more similar than different. But I felt like I really felt kind of a bond with your mom because of the that connection that we had with similar specialty, similar age,
Yeah.
and so I really felt like very comfortable. And initially we did all of our sessions on the phone. I didn't have any video, and it was very, very helpful. And initially I really did it really gave me a lot of energy to sort of look into things and try to change things for the better. Um, I was not always the most compliant with the action steps, which is a challenge. It is a challenge, but it can really help. And I think Gail really makes it easy to come up with things to help. She's very open to working and kind of shared planning, and she is also very good about being a little bit forceful, but not terribly forceful, to be able
Yep.
to really encourage me to get out of my sort of rut. And
Yep.
and it was been very, very, it was very, very helpful initially. I was really, not know. I just didn't know how to face uh, kind of what I was going to do with my career in palliative care. That was my biggest challenge. I think the primary care was a problem, and still a lot of the challenges that we all face with feeling like we're overwhelmed, can't get our notes done, things like that. All of that was also an issue. But because of my level of burnout, I was also not really, pushing myself to do my work as I should have. So, I think Gail was very helpful in making that happen
Definitely.
and making me to make that happen. Really, she really worked with me and continues to work with me because, for me, it's an ongoing struggle.
Yep. Um, so I know you're still working with my mom and you're
Mhm.
actually her longest standing client, which is amazing. Um, in terms of kind of a comparison to that initial place you were in, where you're at now, what are you able to do that you couldn't do before? And then you kind of touched on, your family. What positive impact has, your growth in these areas had on the people around you?
It's hard to say because it's been such a long time ago and a lot changed in that interim. Um,
Sure.
I'm at a point now where I'm very close to the end of my career. And, I was at the time that I started coaching, I was well in my 50s. And so I had already been in practice for almost 30 years at that time. Um, but I think that what one of the things that sort of I think really helped coaching has helped is to help me to continue to be able to maintain my work, not prematurely retire, which I think would have been one of the risks that I would have taken, is that I would have prematurely retired. And I don't think I would have been happy about that. I would have been really, I think, would have made me feel more like I had sort of failed and I didn't want to do that.
Right.
So I feel like, working with Gail has helped me to really be able to stay on task and to be able to see the kind of the finish line for me because I'm seeing that finish line is getting a little bit closer. And now we've really talked a little bit more about um, retiring and making those changes toward retirement, which will be in a
Yeah.
couple of years. And so I think that that's been really helpful. Um, there was I think I was definitely not as able to be present for my family, and I think I'm more able to be more present for them. Of course, our relationships are changing because the children are older and they're not in my house anymore. So that's a big difference too. Um, I feel like I I see in my partners and some of my colleagues that burnout and that empathy, compassion fatigue that we suffer from. And I feel that at this point, I'm really trying to um, really recognize it and knock it out. I don't have that compassion fatigue as much. I feel like I have that energy to be able to get to that finish line now. Whereas I think there are times, and even in the past few years, there have been times where I still felt like I really needed that support. I had some changes I wanted to make in my palliative care practice. There were some very negative things that happened to me in the previous couple of years regarding some colleagues and other things. And,
Yep.
your mom was there to help me. And if I hadn't had that, it would have really been very difficult through the pandemic, all of these other stresses. So, those few years during the pandemic were also highly stressful. And having had that opportunity to work with Gail to sort of keep me on task, to keep me with, looking at the positive, trying to change those scripts in my head so that I'm looking at all of the good that I am doing, all of the good work that I'm doing, all of the people that I've helped, everybody that benefits from my care, makes it easier for me to get up and go to work every day
Yeah.
and not feel resentment about doing my charts or doing whatever work I have to do. Um, and I think if I were in a situation now, if I had that situation that I was in when I started with Gail. And I didn't have, if I had not had Gail to help me, I don't know where I would be right now, to be honest.
Wow.
Um, for me, she's been really just a lifesaver in that regard.
Wow.
Um, it's really been important for me. And now I sort of feel like I have maintenance with Gail. You know, I have sessions infrequently, but it's just enough to keep me on task so that I can continue to do
Definitely.
that work that I need to do to stay positive and to stay focused and not to let it get to me and not to let the day to day things in medicine get me down. And now that my challenge for me is also to be a role model for my son who's a medical student,
Yes.
and to try to get to have that more positive um, face. And he's seen me and my husband at our lowest points, and he still chose to go into medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I want him to have. I don't want him to face some of the challenges that I face, and so that's what I'm hoping that I can also use some of the skills that I've learned from Gail. So,
Yep.
if he needs some assistance or guidance, I can help and redirect him or help him or guide him. And I'm hoping that his generation can thrive and not need as much help, right?
Yeah.
Not to try to
Well, we speak
say that you
up.
guys aren't
You don't
great. I want
you
you guys,
don't just sit
you guys are
and,
here.
and let the
Mhm.
system happen. We speak up.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
well,
So
it's a beautiful full circle that you can pass that on. Um, and you touched on a lot of issues that a lot of our clients share. And I'm really happy to hear that this has been beneficial for you and ongoing and giving you the tools to deal with some of those situations like the one you experienced at the beginning of this journey.
mhm.
Um, the last question that I have for you is, what would you tell someone who's watching this right now and they're not sure about the next step? They're thinking about coaching, they're thinking about continuing to fight the fight by themselves.
Mhm.
What would you say to that person?
I feel that it's very important to use the tools that are available to you to help you, and not to not to fear using those tools. I think coaching is extremely helpful because um, we need to have we need to have support, and that support does not always exist in our organizations. And we need to understand that it's not our problem that we have to solve. It's not us that have a problem. It's we have to learn how to deal with the problems that are given to us. And so I really would encourage people to try coaching. You do have to go a little bit out of your comfort zone sometimes. You do have to really do some introspection and start to think about how you think about yourself and your role. But it's really helpful to have some person or people who can help to get you back on the path. Nobody should feel overwhelmed with their work and feel anger and hatred toward their job, and nobody should feel resentment toward the patients that we're trying to help. You need to really take advantage of the professionals that are out there that can really guide you. And I think
Yep.
that it's unique. It's not if you it's a lot of people might choose to think they might need a mental health professional, and some people do, and that's a different story. But but mental health professionals cannot help you to um, learn how to navigate your work environment better. You really need people who understand what it's like from the inside and can really help to encourage people to grow and find the strength within themselves to face the system that they have to deal and live in and work in.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I feel about it. So I would not hesitate and just try it out. There's not really a lot that you can lose to try some coaching for a while and see if it helps. I've encouraged people that I've worked with who I could tell were really struggling, and I've encouraged them to seek some help with coaching because I really do believe that it really makes a huge difference. And athletes get coached, and executives get coached, and all kinds of people get coached. And doctors have always been trained to be like, you do it, you have to just be tough and you have to take care of everything and you can't be weak. And all of these things are very negative. They cause a lot of distress in medical professionals. And we don't have to feel like that. We can take ownership of our careers and we can make a better life for ourselves.
It was an incredible testimony. Appreciate your time today. And for the physicians watching, definitely opportunity to have a completely new chapter.